views and opinions expressed in this podcast by the host and or the guest do not necessarily reflect the views of the host and or Paranormal Buzz Radio and or its sponsors. Use of any material produced by Paranormal Buzz Radio without express written consent is prohibited. Paranormal Buzz Radio will not be held responsible for you holding your knees, crying, and rocking in a corner in a puddle of your own urine, or being beheaded by a group of children in the cornfield. In fact, if you come across a group of children in a cornfield, we promise to make fun of you as you run away screaming in terror. Listener discretion is advised.
You're listening to RAP Paranormal and Friends with your hosts,
Kim Purvis
and Allison Robinson. Make sure to check us out on our Facebook pages, RAP Paranormal and Friends and RAP Paranormal Busters, for up-to-date show information and events. Hey everyone, welcome to another night of RAP Paranormal and Friends. We have a special guest for everyone tonight. He's a historian and author of The Protector, The Fall and Rise of Oliver Cromwell. So please welcome Tom Reilly to the show. Thanks for coming. You're welcome. Like, what time is it there? Like, okay, I thought it was probably around 1 or 2 in the morning. So thank you for staying up and joining us, and this is awesome. I wouldn't be able to do it. I'm in bed by like 8 or 9 o'clock at night. So as soon as I'm a very busy person, yes. But let's kind of go ahead and dive into your book. Can you give us a little bit of background on it? How did you get interested with Oliver Cromwell? What's the history of this?
What's going on?
Oh, just 1 second. One of the listeners said the sound is kind of choppy here for you, so I'm going to see if I can fix it real quick. Yeah, I think they're having an issue hearing you. So I'm just going to check our settings real quick just to make sure. Why don't you go ahead and try something here real quick, just a test, or.
Yeah, like a Mary Had a Little Lamb kind of thing.
Yeah.
Fleece was white as snow. Everywhere that Mary went, that lamb was sure to go. How does that come across?
Matt, how was that? We'll see. Let's go ahead. I see it moving down here on the bottom, and it was doing it when I was talking too. So, okay. Yep. He said it's good to go. All right. We're
Thanks,
good.
Matt. Thank you.
He's always got our back.
I love Matt. I wish I could remember the question. No, I'm joking.
Don't ask me because I probably wouldn't remember it either.
It's okay. Something to do with a book.
Yes, your book. Yes.
I know. Yeah. Look, you're very good to ask me that straight off the bat. It is one of those things that, Oliver Cromwell is not a name that would roll easily off a tongue over there. Mm-hmm. He's a huge figure in Western Europe. He affected history over here. He was around in the 17th century. Uh-huh. And in Ireland, of course, he's seen as a genocidal maniac. Whereas in the UK,
picked up,
yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah, so there are actually about 80 million people in the Irish diaspora. That's 80 million.
Wow.
Who claim Irish ancestry, and And I think probably, I don't know what the exact figure is, but something like 79 million, blah, 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 believe that Oliver Cromwell was a genocidal maniac. I'm very much in the minority, so it's not so much a case of I've just written this book about a guy, and it's casual. It's an extremely controversial book. And we might get into that at some stage, and we don't have to, but it's just that people who are Irish just see him as the devil incarnate.
Yes.
Came over to my country, killed all my ancestors, and then left. And then that's the legacy that Britain has left, or the UK has left here. So the way this place, we're the Republic of Ireland, and we're next door to England, and we are very close. I don't know if you know, but there's something like 192 nations in the United Nations, and England has invaded 170 of them.
Oh, wow. Oh, my gosh. Holy smokes.
Yeah, so we're just right next door. So as I say, so we would have been in the front line, and they tried to suppress us for so long. It's very difficult looking back from this distance with 21st century eyes.
Right.
Things happened all that time ago, because we can't really judge, to be honest. It's kind of like a different planet.
Right.
The economic, political, religious, social, dimensions were all very different, and we're not really equipped to look back and judge. So that's my opinion. I discovered this guy mainly because, by the way, I will keep talking. You're going to have to jump in at some stage, because that's what I do.
That is perfectly fine. I love to hear it all, so I'm just soaking it in.
Okay. So where I'm sitting right now is a place called Drogheda, and that's in County Louth in Ireland. And that particular town is very closely associated with Cromwell, because he came to my town and apparently he killed everybody here. So I've discovered, which is the reason for the book and other books that I've written about this, is that that's not true. He certainly came here and he certainly killed a lot of people, but it was in a military context. But his reputation and the verdict of history is that he involved, the ordinary, like babies, toddlers, teenagers, pensioners, uncles, aunts, grannies, granddads, in the conflict, and the evidence points very much in the direction that he didn't. So he's an extremely interesting, extremely controversial, extremely divisive figure. Right. Very, he's a household name without question in these islands. And I'm trying to correct a miscarriage of historical justice and trying to right a wrong.
Right. Yeah. He was a general, wasn't he?
Absolutely, yeah, he was. He came from nowhere. He didn't do anything extraordinary in the first 43 years of his life, because there was nothing really to take his attention. And then the Civil War broke out between the King and Parliament, and there was the whole big two sides where the usual story where fathers fight against sons and brothers fight against brothers, and that's true. We know of one particular family who that definitely happened in. He didn't do anything significant. But then when suddenly he's 43 and the Civil War breaks out, he realizes that he has an exceptional talent for military. He was a great military tactician. Military tactics were something without training. So he rose through the ranks and he became. He was a general for quite an amount of time, and then he eventually became so closely associated with the army that he was the one who suddenly seemed to have the power, because they had killed the king, they chopped the head off the king, something that you do back in those days.
Those days, right? Yeah.
He's an irritant, so let's get rid of him.
Yeah.
There is an interesting story, if you allow me to tell you, just and it's kind of linked to the whole theme of what you guys do.
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
Okay, so when Cromwell died, his body was unburied by the royalists. So they came back. He killed the king, and then when his republic didn't succeed, the king's son come back to the throne, and he decided to take Cromwell's body and dig it up, and just as an act of vengeance, and they hung, drew, and quartered the dead body,
Hmm.
and then the head was chopped off. So the head was erected on a pike at Westminster Hall in London.
Oh, wow.
And would you believe it stayed there on railings for about 20 years?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Now, that's you can imagine, and
Yeah.
everybody kind of knows it's Cromwell's head because
Yeah.
he had become, head of state. He had become the Lord Protector. So, and London wasn't really a huge place in those days. So he was, people would walk by and go, "Oh, there's Cromwell. What's the weather going to be like today?" And so it was a thing, and
Right.
so a storm came along anyway. Make a long story longer, and the head broke off, and the railing and the pike was still through the head. But there was a soldier who was on duty below, and he saw the head, and he, "Oh, what'll I do with this?" So he just tucked it under his coat and he brought it home.
Hmm.
But then the next day there was a reward put out for, where's Cromwell's head?
His head.
What's good? Yeah, we need this back, and
Yeah.
this is absolutely true, you
Uh-huh.
know. And so the guy panics and he goes, "Oh God, well, I can't, and I'm not gonna,
Right.
say I took it because I could get in trouble." Anyway, weeks pass, months pass, years pass, and he dies, and he bequeaths the head to his daughter. Now his daughter just thinks, "Okay, I'm going to sell Cromwell's head," and she does. She sells the head, and over hundreds of years, the head, believe it or not, goes around on a journey, museums, circuses.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, there's a guy in the mid 19th century called Samuel Russell who gets his hands on it, and he hands it round at dinner parties where people might pick off a piece of the ear or a piece of the nose. This is Googleable, by the way. If you put in,
Oh.
Cromwell's head
Yes.
spike, you'll see an actual picture of this, and
Oh
it's
my gosh.
absolutely the case. I don't know whether you can do it now or whether you can do it later,
Yeah.
but and it's very clear, and it didn't decay in as much as you would think over the time. I'm coming to the kicker, by the way, so just bear with
Yes.
me.
Nope. You're fine. It's perfectly fine. This is
So,
interesting.
yeah, and I'll tell you why in a second. There's a very interesting dimension. So, anyway, by the 1930s, it comes into the possession of a family called Wilkinson, and they're UK based, and they decide to do some tests on the head just to see, because, is it Cromwell's head? Is it not Cromwell's head? So with the technology that they had in those days, with paintings that they had of Cromwell, and the fact that he had warts, he had one on his chin, he had one in his eye socket, and they found, exactly where the warts would have been. So yes, they concluded that this was Cromwell's head. So now what are we going to do with it? So they taught and they taught, and by 1960 they decided, because this is a different generation now of the family, they decided, okay, we're going to get this buried. So they buried the head with the permission of the college that Cromwell went to, called Sidney Sussex in Cambridge in England,
Uh-huh.
and only the dean of the college knows where the head is buried. But Alison, that head wasn't buried until March 1960, and I was born in March 1960.
Oh my gosh.
So, am I Oliver Cromwell?
Maybe you are. You could be. You could be him rebirthed.
You
Could
know,
be. You never know.
well,
Reincarnated.
yeah, and it's been said, it's been suggested. I'm on the fence about a lot of things,
Right.
and but I like to stay open, and
Right.
again, I know we're going to get into stuff, and
Mhm.
but my mind is, because in fairness, who knows, throughout history, has there really, and this is a kind of a rhetorical question, but has
Yeah.
there ever been anybody who can prove something, in the spirit or paranormal world
Right.
or the supernatural world, that it exists or it doesn't exist? Has there
No.
anybody
No.
ever done that?
No.
You know?
No.
And you could
No.
say that about God too. I'm just
Right.
throwing in the
Yep.
God thing. You could
Yep.
say that too. So
Anything.
I'm not gonna, yeah. So I'm not gonna say with any conviction
Right.
that such a thing is absolutely the case, because
Right.
I'm not that arrogant.
Right. Yeah. Kim did look it up. Is that?
Cool.
Yeah, that is insane. There's literally I saw a picture of a guy standing next to it too.
Isn't it incredible?
Yeah, that's just. I mean, how would it be for a child to walk by that? Like, I couldn't even, children today.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, they wouldn't be able to tolerate that.
No, they couldn't. But you know what's even more odd, and I know this is crazy, and it's absolutely the case, is that the town in which I live, we are best known. Now, this is another Head, and it's another Oliver, and this
Oh
is.
no!
I
Don't
know.
name your children Oliver. They're gonna be beheaded.
Well, if anybody's called Oliver, by the way, it's a lovely name.
Yes, it is. It is a very lovely name. It is a nice name. I know some Olivers, but
Yeah.
just be careful so you don't lose your head.
Exactly, and this is so again. This guy was he was a Catholic bishop, and he was persecuted again in those times. He actually lived in a different just immediately after Cromwell, but he was beheaded as well. And that head, because when you talk about children, look, that head is a massive tourist attraction in this town.
Oh wow!
It's in a box, and again, if you want to Google this, it's very easily done. His name is Oliver Plunkett. So it's Saint Oliver Plunkett, and the name you put in, maybe you just put in the word head, and trust me, put in Google Images, and he will come up. And that's what this town is known for. We have pilgrimages from all over Ireland, particularly.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah, and
I
again,
did find it.
yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah. So it's all about the heads.
It is. Oh, remind me not to come there and visit. I'll
Yeah.
lose my head.
Yeah.
Just kidding. Just kidding.
You just watch what you say, that's the problem. The
That's right.
problem wasn't with the head, it was with the mouth. Whatever these guys said got them in trouble,
Yeah, yeah. Mind your P's and Q's.
Absolutely, yeah. Terrible times, though.
Now, was it said that he haunts his home?
Oh, yes, good question. Yeah, well, again, one of the things that I often kind of relate to is the fact that we, in this part of the world, have a history that goes back so far. With respect to you guys in what we call the New World, maybe if it's 200 years old, it's old.
Oh, yeah.
But here, I'm, inhabiting buildings that are thousands of years old, and they speak of the walls, kind of speak of, history, legacy, ghosts, spirits, all that kind of thing. It's very easy to get into that frame of mind, and I can't really get across to you how, to the vibe that like, okay, we have modern buildings, of course, but we've got castles all over the place. Anyway, yeah, Cromwell's house does exist. Still, the house he actually lived in, which is a remarkable thing, because it's exactly today as it would have been, back in those days. The stories go. There was, I believe, a paranormal investigation took place there. I think 2003 around then, by the local paranormal investigation team from Cambridge. And yes, they encountered Cromwell. He's known to have. There's a little bit of ambiguity, like there always is with these things, where we're not sure exactly what he said to this lady, allegedly, but he's supposed to have given a supported message to her, and that's all very intriguing. But yeah, as well, I don't know if you're familiar with the word puka, Puca.
Yeah, I have heard that. Yes. I have heard that.
So they would be, again, allegedly, sort of scallywag spirits, or
right. Yep.
Yeah, rogues. And in that house, the staff, it's now a visitor attraction, I should clarify that, because people come from far and wide to see how Oliver Cromwell lived. The staff consistently, and far too many times for it to be a coincidence, have their shoelaces opened by spirits. Oh, wow. So, yeah, it's a remarkable thing. Probably maybe 4 or 5 times a day they look down and they go, oh, there they go again. And there was also a lady in this house who used to stay there in the 70s and 1970s, who during the one of her overnight stays, she encountered a significant male presence. That came across wrong. Do you know what I mean? That wasn't where it was going.
Yeah, I know. I get it. Yeah, I get it. Yeah.
Yeah, lots of people can encounter significant male presences during the night, but this was different. Because there's a feeling that one gets depending on one's conditioning, I suppose, and she also encountered a very, very, very pungent smell. And anyway, the next day, she woke up and her arms were all red. So there's
Yeah.
something going on in that house that I'd love to have explained. But it's probably my favorite part of the world. I love that house.
Oh, wow. So you've had some paranormal experiences yourself?
Now, that's an excellent question. You see, back when I was much younger, lots of things happened in my life that led me to change tack, if you know what I mean. I remember I used to think that for years that I had seen a leprechaun.
Mhm.
Yeah, and that's, so, but then, as you get older, you get a lot more cynical and you think, hold on a second, was that not just my childhood imagination?
Right.
And
Uh-huh.
I also, for a lot of my week, I inhabit a castle. So, yeah,
Nice.
so, yeah. And while other people in the castle
Uh-huh.
have encountered or had experiences, I've never had a direct experience. We had a paranormal investigation
Yes.
about 3 years ago now,
Mhm.
and but it's kind of hair standing up on the back of your arms moments where you're standing in a room and there are people who they're seers, if you like. I don't know how to explain,
Oh,
but
yes.
they. Yeah, I mean, at one stage the lady says to me, she's interviewing me, and there's technology around. There's a camera, and there's
Right.
a microphone, and it's all very contemporary and modern. And then she just says something like, "Freeze, don't move. There's a white lady standing behind you," you know. And I'm kind of going, okay. What? Do I turn around? Do I not turn around? Do I say
Yeah.
hello? And but then she disappeared, so no is the short answer that I have never had an experience.
Uh-huh.
And but the whole thing intrigues me because I would love, and also in the sound when they played stuff back to me,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, you could discern words that were coming out of, I don't know where they came from, but because they weren't recorded when I was talking,
Right.
but they were coming from, potentially another dimension,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
that's pretty scary. We have a, sorry, I know I talk a lot, but we
No,
have,
you're perfectly fine. This is all very interesting.
well, we've got a resident ghost, if you like, that I'd love to meet.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, it's mainly because, I walk the same rooms she would have walked. I,
Mhm.
go to the same kitchen. I walk into her bedroom. I go up the stairs she would have traversed. But she was a very strong swimmer, and we have, when she died, which is just about to tell you about, we have the coroner's report from,
Oh.
yeah, 1852.
Oh, wow.
It's incredible, the detail, and we know that this is what happened because coroners don't lie, and witnesses were called.
Mhm.
She was a strong swimmer. Where the castle is just on the Irish Sea, it's literally there on the coast. So she went down in November. Now it's cold. I don't know what it's like in your part of the world when in November.
Cold.
Very cold.
Very
Yeah,
cold.
yeah, yeah. So it's not the kind of thing you just you go down and have a swim in the sea. But she was
Right.
strong. So she did, and her maid was with her,
Mhm.
as usual, because these people had money. If you owned a castle in those days, you had a
Yeah.
few bucks.
Right.
So she stood in the sea, and this is what I think is so poignant because we know exactly what her last words were because the maid tells us. And so she says to the maid, "Do you think the sea is any stronger than the day before, where it was very strong?" And the maid says, "No, it's about the same, so be careful." And her last words were, "There is no fear." So with that, a wave came, took her away out. She drowned,
Mhm.
and they brought her body back up to the castle, not far from where I am now,
Uh-huh.
and tried to revive the body with hot water. They thought, foolishly that could bring her back. It didn't, and she had two children. And this is the whole story now because post death.
Mhm.
They had to bring her back up steps. And again, if anyone's inclined to Google this, these are called the lady's stairs. So the lady
Mhm.
apparently looks for her children, and local people will not go near that place at night. Halloween, stay away.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah.
and people have seen the white lady who I mentioned earlier,
Hmm.
who was apparently standing behind me, and all over the castle on different occasions. Me, unfortunately, I hear creaks. I hear, because wood creaks. I hear things, and I just love to be able to tell you candidly and honestly that I
Yes,
have had experiences like that, but I just haven't. I don't know,
you're right.
why.
Some people do, some don't. But I can tell you that we had a guest on one time, and we actually had one of our listeners contact me and said, "Hey, you need to go back and listen to this time. There's somebody talking underneath you guys
Wow.
while you're having your." Yeah, and I went
Conversation,
back.
yeah.
Yeah, it was a man's voice. There's no man here, but it it was very bizarre. I
Yeah.
couldn't explain it, but
I
he
like
was
Kim's
there.
little chuckle there. That was very interesting.
Just
She,
like just like the voice we had before we came on.
oh yeah, this was really weird too. We were getting ready to put our
Yeah.
our headphones in, and we
Hmm.
heard a guy, and I'm like, I looked at Kim, and she's like, and I'm like, I don't know what that was, but there
Okay.
was a guy, and there's nobody. We're
Oh
like,
my God.
We're by ourselves.
yeah,
So we've got company.
we have company. It happens
Okay.
from time to time.
Yeah, we got
Um,
to watch our P's and Q's then,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
That was
so
like,
it's this whole area that intrigues me, because I just love the fact that, like, if you go back to the source, if you consider the whole idea of when somebody dies,
mm-hmm,
so this is after death, like some people will say, okay, that rigor mortis sets in,
mm-hmm,
consciousness dies, and that's all fine, and I
right,
understand that to some degree,
mm-hmm,
and it's impossible for anything to happen subsequent to that. But to me, there's an energy that people possess
mm-hmm,
that, like, where does that go? I'm not a scientist. I can't explain. My words would become very inarticulate now if I was to continue saying, using the analogies. But
uh-huh,
I just don't understand how that can just, like, what about a soul?
right, mm-hmm.
You don't get an itchy soul because you don't know where it is. You don't know what it is.
That's right,
You
yeah,
know,
mm-hmm,
yeah. So there are things that science can't explain. I
mm-hmm,
mean, we all know this.
right,
So, and that's where my mind is open, and that's
mm-hmm,
where I'm thinking all the time. And there's a desire as well to, for most people, who, for death not to be the end.
mm-hmm, right,
You
yep,
know. That's where I am. I often think, if it's the end, like, is it really that shallow that we just live and we die and that's it?
you're right, yeah,
There must be more to it.
uh-huh. That's where I'm at too. I gotta. That's why Kim and I do this too when we go out, just trying to figure out if we can get any answers as to why these things happen. You can't explain some of these things that happen.
Well, science, and when you get the answers, if you don't mind, Alison, just let me know, please, because I'm here.
Yes. It might be
And,
a while, but
yeah, that's okay. I can wait. It's 1:30 in the morning here, so you got a bit of time.
I got a bit.
Yeah, and as we said before, nobody can say categorically one way or the other. And when you have mediums and psychics who can communicate or claim they communicate with the other dimension, to me. I like my evidential platform to be significant. I always find that there are some charlatans out there. You
Mhm.
know, there are
Mhm.
some people who prey on the vulnerable,
Right. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I just think, like, this is what I think, that's horrendous. And I mean, about I can't remember names now, but televangelists who would have had earpieces in their
Oh
ears.
yes. Uh
You
huh.
know,
Uh huh.
people would be telling them things about the audience, and you might fill in a
Right.
form beforehand, and they read people, and all of
Mhm.
this. And so, but there are others who genuinely and sincerely either believe or are in touch with the other side.
Mhm.
And if the other side exists, which I assume it
Right.
does, so, but that particular business, if you like, attracts the wrong sort. and it gets a bad rep, if that makes sense. Do you know what I mean?
Yep. Yeah, I do. Yep. I get you. I get you 100%. Just like some of the television shows with the paranormal, some of them are a little.
Yeah, I remember. Sorry, there's an excellent. Just remembered now while you were saying that. There's an excellent example of this. I don't know. Would you be familiar? And I'm sure you would be with Darren Brown. You don't. Yeah, you don't have to be.
I don't know if I know Darren Brown.
That's okay. So he's an English psychic. Well, sorry, that's the wrong word. He's an English. I don't know what. So he would be a magician. He would be. Anyway, words are escaping me now. But
That's
but
okay.
what he did was he went to the US. And he explained he did this show, and he explained it's an auditorium, and he has an amalgam of people there, and he explains to the audience, sorry, to the viewers, that he's about now to perform an act where the viewer knows that everything he's about to say is not true. So, but he touches. I think 4 or 5 people in the audience, and I don't mean physically, I mean emotionally, with names and very, very specific circumstances that relate directly to people who have died belonging to them. And very soon, they're, oh my God, you're talking to my husband, you're talking to my son, and the information, and it's, I can't, again, give you examples, but it's incredibly specific. But then at the end, he tells them, and he has to do it very delicately because these people have become emotionally, and of course they had to give permission for the program to go out because it did go out. Again, it's YouTubeable. Is that a word? YouTubeable?
It can be.
Yeah, just made a verb out of YouTube. Well, Google is the same. So, but he explained to them, no, he said, I don't have powers. I'm just good. I read people, and that's how, charlatans operate. So you need to be on your guard. That's all I'm saying,
Right. Let's see here. We have some questions coming in from chat. So I'm just going to get to the first one here. I like to let them take part.
Sure.
So it looks like the first question is from Darren. Do you think a certain part of Ireland is more haunted than others?
What a good question. Yeah. That's brilliant. A certain part. Well, I can tell you this, that there are castles on every corner. I'm sure people...
Yeah.
And because, we live in a world where tourism is very significant, and, so most of them would claim to be the most haunted castle in the world. There's a place called Leap Castle. That's L-E-A-P. Yeah. You've heard of Leap?
I've heard of Leap. Yep.
Wow. Yeah. Lots of murders went on there over the years. The O'Carroll family is the family there. There's again, that goes back. Cromwell obviously was around when Leap Castle was there, and I think there's a connection with a Cromwellian soldier whose wife, as far as I know, saw stuff, and there's a priest's house thing. So Leap would be one of them. But geographically, I think, to be honest, it's well spread out all over the country. There is another place in Dublin, which is the capital. And it's not so old, but it is, and again, it wouldn't have been a castle, but it would have been it's called the Hellfire Club.
Oh, yes. Yep, I've heard of that too.
Oh, yeah. Okay. This is where devil worshipping went on, and debauching and drinking, lords. You can see it all, in a period movie where they're, consuming copious amounts of drink and also cannibalism has also been associated with there, where a young girl apparently was eaten, oddly. Yeah, I know, it's crazy. But we have, there's Kilmainham Jail as well, and that's in Dublin, where this is that's significant from an Irish Republic's point of view, because the people who fought for Ireland's freedom would have died and been shot in Kilmainham Jail. So again, ghosts would haunt Kilmainham Jail, and Irish people, that feeling when you get. I mean, I presume whether you believe or whether you don't believe, you walk into a room, and whether they just haven't turned the heating on or it's
Yeah.
cold
Right. Yes. Yep.
for a different reason, that's when your head starts to think of all these things. So I would be inclined to think that rural parts of Ireland would probably be more scary than urban parts. That's in my opinion, to answer the question directly.
That was good. All right.
We have banshees, of course, over here too. I don't know if you know, but the banshee,
Jeez. Oh yes, I've heard of that.
I would have expected you to. You've been in
Yeah.
the business.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's kind of a harbinger of death, like
Mhm.
years ago when maybe most American children would be thinking of monsters under their beds,
Yeah.
Monsters Inc. and all that. There's a whole
Yep. Yes.
amount of stuff going on down there. That wasn't a thing for us because we were just scared witless. I could have said another word there, but we were scared
That's
witless. It's a family show. Um, of banshees who were roaming around the streets outside, and apparently, there is a whale, and that's WAIL as opposed to WHALE, that they emit, to tell people that there's somebody about to die, and apparently, and again, you're lying there, and this is where I would have been scared to bits, because you're lying there as a 7 or 8 year old, and you're thinking, so I'm not going to look out the window because she's going to look in the window, and then
Yeah.
somebody in my house is going to die.
Right.
Yeah. So just don't do it, And apparently some of them had really tall legs and they could look in the second story,
Oh.
So anyway, this is just something that you're plagued with,
Right.
We also, by the way, have a picture of a ghost. you know, yeah,
Yeah.
in the castle there's a
Oh,
picture.
really?
Yeah, and
Oh, wow.
and people have looked at this picture and they've kind of okay, we can't explain that. Anyway, it's a picture of one of the rooms, and in the corner you can see the shape of a man, and it's very clear, and he's very obvious. And we show all of the visitors to the castle this picture of the ghost, and again, it's the conditioning. Sorry, Alison. It's like a lot of people go, nah, that's nothing, and other people will just freak,
Right.
and they go, oh my God, that's absolutely the case,
Mm-hmm.
But I often wonder, are people inclined to believe because of what Hollywood is delivered into their brains?
Right.
Do you know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean? Like,
Yes.
because we've had so many horror movies and ghost movies and right from the word. So are we conditioned that way to, to want to believe, or, what? How do we? What can you see a form? You know what I mean? Is it a white sheet with cut out eyes?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
What is it exactly? And that intrigues me. Like I'd love to talk to somebody who's never seen a Hollywood movie, but I don't know that one of those
Yeah, I
people.
don't know anybody either. Maybe a hermit or something. I'm not sure, but
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
that's the
But
only
it's
person I
but
can
it's
think
yeah,
of.
it's the conditioning in a lot of cases where they're halfway there because they're very convinced because of what they've seen, that such a thing exists,
Right. Yep. Absolutely. I had a question. I was reading through some of your things, and we were just kind of talking about the Banshee, but what is the Phantom Bear?
Oh, the bear, yeah. When you
Yeah.
see when it comes to this is great. Like there's a few stories about so this is to do with the Civil War,
Mm-hmm.
and there would be stories associated with like battlefields.
Mm-hmm.
And the bear is a weird one because there are no longer bears in England. They used to, of course, have pet bears. You probably heard of a dancing bear. That's what they used to get them to dance, and that's
Oh my goodness, yeah.
yeah. But the bear haunts a particular battlefield. It's Edge Hill, and like through the years, he's been seen, and people have taken shots at him, try to shoot him. And I don't know exactly how he's associated with the English Civil War, but he's on that battlefield. And also, there are other battlefields in England as well where armies still march, drums still play. You have officers who are again, and you can imagine, like, this is hundreds of years ago, a battle took place. How are there not ghost stories associated with these sites?
Yeah, absolutely.
There
Yeah.
absolutely have to be. So you have phantom armies,
Mm-hmm.
you know, that march.
Yeah.
You've got officers looking for the battle because they've somehow lost it, you know. And again, you know, there's a fantastic there's a pub in a place called Hull where currently the owner of the pub is a non-believer, but he keeps getting reports of stories. But because back in the Civil War, a lot of information was kind of secret, and there's so much, you know, skullduggery going on that there were whispers. So people would whisper stuff, you know, don't say anything, but you know, there's going to be a battle at the weekend, you know. So people hear whispers in this pub constantly. Can you imagine how frightening that would be, you know? So
Yeah.
they tell the guy, you know, and he, of course, he probably loves the fact that he's getting attention for this. But it's well known that this pub is the Whispering Pub. So you've got the bear, you've got the Whispering Pub. You know, there's just so many things going on. I'm just going to. Oh yeah, sorry. There's one other thing that when you think of Cromwell and Ireland and priests and the supernatural, because apparently there were some priests that they couldn't even kill, and they tried. And this is kind of documented in a particular book that came out around that time, where people have said that their priests were shot, but the bullet, back in those days it was a musket ball, so it was a circular thing, stopped at the cowl. They would wear cowls, COWL, where it wouldn't penetrate the cowl, it would just drop, you know, straight to the ground. Other stories like where, you know, so the Catholic faith was persecuted in those days, and Catholics were, you know, sent away from their land and their houses, and nuns were sent away from a convent down in Wexford, and Cromwellian soldiers would just sleep in the convent, but of course retribution would come in the form of spirits. So this is, you know, they would be at night, they would be plagued with spirits. Some of them would die from the experiences that they would have. So, and again, this is all documented. I'm just going to get the reference to what it is, because to me it's very interesting that I love something that's documented.
Oh yeah.
Of course, can I find it now?
Of course not. You can never find anything when you're looking for it. That's
No.
the story of my life.
I got it now. So it's from A Brief History of the Irish Province of the Friars Minor of the Regular Observance, and the guy's name was Father Francis Ward. So, you know, when you have a reference like that, you know, you think, okay, because that's like, if it just had been legend or tradition that's been handed down and maybe changed throughout the years. But this is a very popular book, and people, you know about this. And so, yeah, there's lots of stories. I have another one. I love this. We've got a street in the town here,
yes.
and it's called Scarlet Street.
Oh.
So think about the color red.
Yes.
So that's where Cromwell is supposed to have killed so many
people. So like their blood, like the
exactly,
street is,
exactly,
stained with the blood,
stained with the blood, and that's a very, very vibrant tradition here. So we've got the Scarlet Lady, and the Scarlet Lady is alleged to have lost her children in the battle. Now, I would contend, because I've done all the research and so on, that Cromwell didn't kill any children, certainly. But that aside, there's no point in spoiling a good story with facts. So as far as as far as most people around here go, the Scarlet Street legend is so real, you know, and again, it's just a lovely connection back to that time. But there are lots of reasons why I would not believe that, and one of them is because Scarlet Street today was actually it was outside the town walls, so it wouldn't even have been in the town.
Oh.
You know? But traditions are great, you know. Why argue with traditions, you know?
That's right. Yep. Let's see here. We had a couple more questions come into chat. They want to know if you have a favorite castle.
Oh, what a great question. Yeah. Yes. So thank you for that. I would, do you know, in the days of the Normans, when the Normans came, there was such a thing called the £10 castle. So that's like a $10 castle. So they could build a castle for $10, if you like, back in the day. So lots of them came up. So it's got to be Blarney. And Blarney is, again, that's the word which
Hmm.
everybody's familiar with. If you've
Yep.
got the Blarney,
Yeah.
which I think I have, uh, it's the Blarney Stone. So,
Yes.
yeah, you go to. Have you been, by the way?
No.
No, you have to come. It's,
Not been.
particularly, with your interest in these things, because you
Yes.
would literally go from castle to castle, and
It would be. Yeah, that would be amazing.
yeah, I would enthusiastically encourage you at some point. But yeah, the tradition of the Blarney Stone,
Hmm.
it's there, it's happening all the time today. People climb up very rickety stairs. I don't know how people were so small in those days, because you're walking up the stairs of the castle, and you have to. Well, I'm 6 foot tall, but you have to just. Everybody has to, crouch down, and then when you're kissing the Blarney Stone
So yeah.
to get the gift of the gab, which is what that's all about, you have to do a very precarious lean back, and the guy who's on duty holds you so you don't plummet to the ground and die. Nobody has done yet, by the way.
That's good.
I Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think Blarney is terrific. Yeah, that would be my favorite castle.
Awesome. Okay. And then, oh man, there's a few more here
Oh,
questions.
okay.
They're on a roll. Um, let's see here. Oh, he wants to know if you would turn your book, into a movie.
So that's my goal in life. Yeah, the story of Oliver Cromwell is a dead ringer, or if that's the word. It's an absolute must that it has to be made into a movie, because it's, like I said, it's rags to riches. It's like Log Cabin to White House. He went from nowhere, total obscurity, to being the first and only commoner ever to rule England, to be head of state. You've got the controversy thrown in where he's supposed to have killed people, civilians left, right, and centre. You've got in the book, I call it the tabloid version of his life, because it's just boom, 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 like the first chapter. And spoiler alert, he this is a story that's associated with him. He would have been picked up by a chimpanzee as an infant, and the chimpanzee climbed over the house, the big house that they were visiting, the family were visiting, carrying Cromwell as a 5-month-old infant, and didn't drop him. Eventually, they managed to save him. A lot of Irish people, of course, would have much preferred that the chimpanzee dropped him. And you might think, well, that's a bit bizarre. Why would the chimpanzee be around? So in those days, that was quite common for an ape or a monkey to be a pet in an English home. And they would do various tricks for the people who live there, for fruit and so on. But
Right.
for some reason, this particular day, the monkey was more frisky, and he took the child. So he had a charmed, yeah, I know, he had a charmed life. He's saved from drowning by a priest as well when he was a little older. And the time that he lived in, it's like, there are so many movies made from the Tudor age, like the Queen Elizabeth and
Yeah. Hmm.
all that, King Henry VIII and all that, because it's history. But the Cromwellian period is very complicated. Of course, my book makes it very easy to read, because I like to do that for people. Just make it easy,
Yes.
take out all the nonsense. But yeah, yes, I know that's a very long-winded answer, but this will be done, whether it'll be in my lifetime or
Hmm.
not. But come on, look at the title, The Protector.
Sure.
Mhm.
Yes. Right.
It's
Yes.
screaming for a Hollywood movie.
Hollywood.
Of course, who
That's
would
right.
play me? That's
Yeah, I was gonna
something
ask, who would you have
that.
Play everybody in this.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I don't know. I won't go down the Brad Pitt or Johnny Depp road. It's just humility prevents me from. I know it's going to be Cromwell, but I figure I'm going to get in there somewhere too.
Yes. Yeah. You have to get in there.
It'll be a flashback thing.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah,
sure.
absolutely. Yeah, but I know it's very exciting. You know, the whole book thing is very exciting for me. This is my fourth book on Cromwell, just so people
Nice.
understand.
That's
Yeah,
yep.
yeah. The others, and the reason I mention it is because I don't care whether they buy the book or whether they don't. But it's called. My publicist won't like that last statement, by the way. But I love the controversy. So my first book was called Cromwell, An Honourable Enemy. And as I said, anybody Irish who sees that, they go, "Oh my God, how could he have been honourable? He killed everybody," which isn't true. And my second one is Cromwell was framed.
Okay.
So, you know, that's it. And again, it's kind of, I do that to just kind of tick people off who are Irish, you know, because he was framed.
Yes. Okay. Let's see here. We have one more question that we'll do, and then we'll kind of start wrapping things up.
Sure, I went on too long. I know, I'm sorry.
No,
no,
you're
no,
fine.
you're
I just know
good.
it's very early hours for you over there. It's almost 2 o'clock in the morning. So.
Yeah, I'm a big boy. I can manage. Sorry, go on. We have a time constraint. I totally get that.
Nope, you are totally fine. Darren has another question. He wants to
Hmm.
know, do you feel castles draw more spirits in more so than the land?
Yeah, that's a good question. So if you remember, you know, my the jury is out for me, but I
Yes.
would absolutely, and that was the point I was trying to make. You know, while the jury's out, if I was to go on one side or the other, to fall down on one side or the other, that's the way it would fall. I would absolutely say that, and the reason I would say that is because people inhabit buildings. Yes, they traverse land as well, but you know there's a very significant connection between people and buildings. They live there, they sleep there, they inhabit the building, and you know, and that's what there's a vibe, you know. You know, again, when I walk into a room, and like I say, I'm in a castle most of the day. When I walk into a room, it's got so many stories. You know, the library, for instance, where I am now, you know, the people, you know, 200 or 300 years ago, they would all go into the library on a winter's evening because the books would provide insulation. You
Oh,
know, the
yes.
rest of the castle was left, and they would why go into a big cold empty room? And so you'd have a fire lit,
Mm-hmm.
um, and that would be the warmest room in the house. So for me, there's no question that buildings would be much more significant. But that's only my opinion. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I would have difficulty. And I'm just trying to think now. You know, okay, you've got the Civil War stories and battlefields, and you've got stories about headless horsemen on those battlefields as well. But I would think that buildings, particularly because of the nooks and crannies and corners and the attic and the basement, you
Yes.
know, you know, Amityville horror time, lads. That's the way I see it. You know.
That kind of comes into the. There was one more question that popped into chat. If you
Mm.
were to write a book about the U.S., what would you write about?
Oh, about the US,
Yeah.
that's an excellent question. Okay, well, let's keep the theme. What I'm fascinated by UFOs. Just so you know,
Oh
I
yes.
know I know it's late in
Nope.
the conversation to throw that
Nope.
in.
Nope. Go for it.
Yeah, I would go down that road without question. And can I make a very significant point if you don't mind? I just think,
Absolutely. Yeah.
thank you. It's like to me, you know, people often say, "So do you believe in USOs? Do you believe in aliens? What do you think?" You know, and you can be labelled as being a bit cuckoo, you know, and that's with respect to everybody, because lots of people have ideas that they have. So, in my opinion, um, if you picture, my analogy is always, if you picture a grain of sand. So you've got a grain of sand, and let's just say it's spherical. So it's a spherical. Now it's very tiny. It's absolutely minute, minuscule. I don't know, micro, whatever the word is. So let's just say that's the Earth. Okay, a grain of sand is the Earth. Like Men in Black. Remember the thing that hung around the cats? You
Yes.
know,
Yep.
you got the universe in there.
It's in
So
there.
it's
Right.
that.
Yep.
Yeah. So I'm reducing it even smaller to the Earth being a grain of sand. So if I walk down to the beach, which is just down there, and
Mm-hmm.
I pick up a handful of sand, in that hand I've got, I don't know, billions of grains of sand
Right.
in a handful.
Mm-hmm.
Then I look at the beach and I'm thinking, oh my God, now we're into words that I can, trillions, gazillions. How many grains of sand are there? That's only my beach.
Mm-hmm.
If I take the country of Ireland and I think all the beaches, so are we looking at an infinite number of grains of sand? So what I'm saying is, if every one of those grains of sand represents a planet,
Right.
that's where it becomes incredibly, difficult to understand. How in God's name can we have the temerity to think that we're the only ones with life?
Yes. Yeah, exactly. You have all those
You know?
planets. There's got to be somewhere else that has life
Yeah,
on that
yeah,
planet.
yeah. And again, and you can stop me, by the way, if we're over
Nope.
time.
Nope, you're
But
fine.
cool, thank you. But to me, that's a huge big deal. So I would, if I was to write a book, I would go down that road, and I would try and understand, or try, whether it would be a fiction or whether it be a fact, or or non-fiction or whatever. I would try and get that across, because to me that's a huge deal. Like, and then you've got the whole, in time, where are we? Are we some sort of primitive civilization, or are we extremely advanced? Is and then the concept of time, and then it gets a little oblique, because so where what's our position in the universe? And are we an experiment? Somebody would suggest that this is just an experiment by other beings who are far more advanced than us. So the landscape is a myriad of possibilities. And that's all I'd say to that, And when you have these people who claim that they've been abducted by aliens, and we usually go to the Roswell version of an alien,
Yes, right.
the big eyes and the you know what I'm talking about.
Yep.
Or E.T. or whatever it is. But that's probably not anywhere near to reality,
Right.
So that's I just love to put some shape around all of that, obscurity, because I think it's very important. I don't think there's anything more important, by the way, in this life than all of that. And we haven't even discussed God yet.
Yeah.
But that's another thing that to me is very close. I think people need to get that part of their lives right. So before you can really accept what the world is offering you, you need to get your religion, where you feel about life after death and all that, because otherwise you don't have it nailed. You need to get all these these boxes ticked.
Yep.
IMO, as they say. That's IMO in my opinion.
Then yes. I am starting to learn some of those little tiny, like people just text random stuff. I'm like, I don't know what that means. Like, my kids have to tell me, because I am not.
I know, yeah. You look far too young. I don't understand how you could say that, because to me, you're just out of your 20s, and you've probably got all these emojis and, acronyms down.
Nope. My oldest one just graduated from high school, so.
Oh my God. That's ridiculous.
I know. At the college. Scary stuff.
Wow. It's all ahead of you.
Yeah, I know. All right. So, where can people find you if they want to maybe hit you up, ask you some more questions? Where can they find your books?
Sure. Yeah. Well, I Facebook is the best place to get me. Tom Reilly, I'm on Facebook. There's a link. I don't know if you're going to put it up, but that's where I am easily got. They're obsessed with Facebook. Always chatting to people. The book is probably the publisher's website is johnhuntpublishing.com. And they're an exceptionally good publisher, and of course Amazon. It's riding high currently on the new releases, the hot new releases. I was actually, would you believe, I was number one
Awesome.
on US Amazon. Yeah. It's that's amazing to me, because I'm only a humble wannabe, and hopefully I can eventually be whatever that is.
Oh no, I'm trying to get this up. To see if I can put the link in our chat too, so people that pop in later when they're listening, they can see it. But we also put it on our social media as well. But we definitely want everybody to check you out, and definitely check out your books.
Great. I would respond to everybody. That's just what I do. And if you take the time to send me a message, I will get right back to you.
Awesome. That's awesome. Because yep, I just went to Amazon and I just put your first name in, and your book popped right up. That's amazing.
Hey. There you go. See,
cool.
I don't exaggerate stuff, you know. So that's why the movie is next. Any would-be producers or directors out there, you know, hey, call me.
That's right. Yes, give him a call. Check out
Yeah,
our pages and get his info. Get a hold of
we'll
him.
we'll cut you in for a percentage, guys.
All right. So I'm just going to give quick shout outs here to whoever was in chat. We had Matt, Nico, we had Haunted Kentucky, Darren, and then we had Allie up in there. She was
Listening.
just kind of listening, but I could see you, and there's a couple others that I can't see your pictures, but I know you're there. So thank you, everybody who was in chat participating.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you for everybody who was not in chat but listening. We appreciate each and every one of you. Next week, just want to let you guys know, next week we will have Tyler Transu and Chris Rupert back on. They're going to be talking about their new documentary that's coming out on July 5th, Secrets of the Sasquatch. And then they also have one that you might be interested in. They did one called Contact Disclosure. Let me look it up. It's about UFOs.
Ooh, I like it.
It's very good. It is very good. It's on Vudu, Google Play.
I will check it out.
Podcast. Yes, you'll have to check it out. But I can send you the info. But I watched it. It was very good. So make sure you guys check that out. And once again, thank you, Tom, for being on. It was pleasant. I loved it. You're very awesome and easy to talk to. Sometimes
Thank you.
Don't always get that, and we appreciate that very much.
No problem. Hope you enjoyed and could understand the Irish accent because it's very Irish.
I love the Irish accent.
Yeah, Kim's like, I love
that. Hey, Kim, I wish I could see you properly.
Here, Kim, come over.
But thank you. Thanks for the sentiment. Okay.
Can you see her?
Well, in a very spirit-like fashion. So I'm guessing she's not real. Okay, I got you. I got you. Lovely. Oh my goodness. Thank you for mentioning my accent. I appreciate that.
Yes. Thank you, everybody, and have a wonderful night.